Have you ever felt like you're standing on the edge of a cliff, looking into the unknown, wondering what's next? We've all been there, caught between where we've been and where we're headed, with no clear path in sight. The uncertainty of life can weigh heavy on the heart. Yet, in the midst of all the questions, there is one truth that stands firm. God knows what's next for you. Life doesn't come with a roadmap. We often find ourselves walking through seasons where the future is unclear, where we don't know what's waiting for us just around the corner. The uncertainty of what lies ahead can be unsettling, even paralyzing. We spend so much time trying to predict what's coming, to plan every detail, to control our future. But let me remind you of something powerful today. You don't have to know everything. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to step into the unknown and still believe that God has your back. We spend so much energy worrying about what's next that we forget one critical thing. God is not surprised by your uncertainty. He is not caught off guard by the twists and turns of life. The unknown is not a place of fear. When we understand that God knows exactly what's next for us, it's in those moments of uncertainty that He can show us His strength, His wisdom, and His timing. Think about it. How many times in your life has God led you through something you didn't understand at the time, only for you to look back and say, that was exactly what I needed? When you don't know what's next, remember that God does. And the best thing we can do in these times is to trust that He's already ahead of us, preparing the way. Let me tell you something powerful. The unknown is not your enemy. So often we think that uncertainty is something to be avoided, something that stands in the way of our peace, our happiness, and our success. But what if I told you that the very thing we fear most, the uncertainty, is actually the very place where God's greatness shines brightest? We're all wired to want certainty. We want to know what's next. We want to have control. We want the plan laid out before us. But God doesn't work like that. He doesn't need you to have all the answers. He just needs you to trust Him when you don't have them. In moments of uncertainty, we grow. It's when we don't know what's next that our faith is stretched and refined. The moment we surrender our need for control and embrace the unknown is the moment we give God the opportunity to move in ways we could never imagine. God specializes in the unknown. He doesn't need us to see the whole picture. He only needs us to take the next step in faith even when we can't see the next mile. Do you remember the story of Abraham? God told him to leave everything behind, his family, his home, his security, and go to a land he had never seen, to a place he didn't know. Can you imagine the uncertainty that must have been in his heart? Yet Abraham stepped out, not because he knew what was ahead, but because he knew the one who was leading him. And God didn't disappoint. The unknown became a stepping stone to the promises of God. So today, don't be afraid of uncertainty. Embrace it, because in that space of I don't know, God is waiting to reveal Himself to you in a way that will transform your life. Embrace the unknown with the confidence that the one who holds your future is never lost. You may be sitting here today feeling like life is a puzzle with too many missing pieces. You can't see the whole picture, and it feels frustrating not knowing how everything fits together. But let me tell you something powerful. God has a plan for you, and His plan is greater than anything you could ever design for yourself. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of the world, the deadlines, the pressures, the expectations. We start to believe that if we don't have it all figured out right now, we've somehow missed the mark. But trusting God's plan means resting in the knowledge that He's already mapped out your future, even when you can't see it. The truth is, God's plan doesn't require your understanding, it requires your obedience. We want to know every detail, but God calls us to take the next step in faith, even when we can't see the road ahead. Think about Joseph in the Bible. His journey was filled with betrayal, prison time, and heartache. Yet, in every step of his life, God was working a plan that Joseph couldn't see at the time. It wasn't until the right moment came that Joseph could look back and see the purpose in his pain, the meaning in his struggles. So today, I want you to know your life is not a random series of events. God has already written the story, and He is guiding you every step of the way. Trust that even when things don't make sense, His plan is still unfolding, and it's leading you to greater things than you could ever imagine. How many times have you found yourself wondering, why is this happening right now? Why am I still waiting? We often struggle with God's timing because it doesn't match our own. We want answers today. We want progress now. But God works on a timetable that is different from ours. But let me remind you of something today. God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't make sense to us. We are often impatient, rushing through life, trying to get to the next stage, the next level, the next breakthrough. But God's timing isn't rushed. It's precise. It's intentional. It's deliberate. Every delay, every pause, every waiting season has purpose. And what seems like a setback in your life may actually be God's way of preparing you for something far greater than you could ever imagine. Think about the story of David. When God anointed him as king, he didn't immediately take the throne. Instead, he spent years running, hiding, fighting battles, and learning to trust God in ways he never could have imagined. David's waiting season wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. God was developing his character, strengthening his faith, and building the resilience he would need to rule the nation. So, if you're waiting today, waiting for a breakthrough, a door to open, a change to happen, remember this: God's delay is not a denial. It's a sign that He is at work in your life, preparing you for what's next. You are right where you need to be. And when the time is right, He will open the doors that no one can shut. Trust in His perfect timing, because God is never late. He is always right on time. How often do we find ourselves praying, asking God for something specific, convinced that we know exactly what we need? Maybe it's a job, a relationship, financial stability, or healing. We make our requests known, hoping that God will give us exactly what we've asked for. But what happens when God doesn't answer the way we expect, or when He says, not yet? Here's the truth. God knows your needs better than you do. He sees things you cannot see, understands what you truly need in ways that go far beyond your own understanding. Sometimes we think we know what's best for us, but God, in His infinite wisdom, knows what we need at the right time. In the Bible, Jesus tells us that if we, being human, know how to give good gifts to our children, how much more will our Heavenly Father give us what we truly need? But the key here is that God gives us what we need, not always what we want. It's easy to get caught up in desiring things that we think will fulfill us, things that may look good in the moment, but might not be what's best for our growth and future. Look at the example of the Apostle Paul. He asked God to remove the thorn in the flesh, something that caused him immense pain. Yet God did not remove it. Instead, He told Paul, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12:12. In other words, what Paul thought was a need wasn't actually what he needed most. What he truly needed was to experience God's strength in his weakness. When you feel like God is not answering your prayers in the way you expected, remember that He knows exactly what you need. Sometimes the things that are held back from us are not denials, they're divine protection. Trust that God sees your needs from an eternal perspective, and His provision will always be in perfect alignment with your purpose. God will provide exactly what you need when you need it. When you're in the midst of a season of uncertainty, it's easy to feel like you're stuck, or that Nothing is happening. You may be looking around wondering why your breakthrough hasn't come yet, why your prayers seem unanswered, or why things are moving slower than you hoped. But here's the truth. God is preparing you for blessings that you can't even imagine right now. What you see as waiting is actually divine preparation. God never wastes a season. Every moment of waiting, every challenge, every setback is a part of His plan to prepare you for what's next. You might not understand it in the moment, but every step is making room for the blessings God has in store for you. Think about the Israelites. They wandered in the desert for 40 years, not because God had forgotten them, but because He was preparing them to enter the promised land. That desert experience, though difficult, was necessary for them to grow in faith, to rely on God, and to be equipped to handle the blessing that was coming. The promised land was waiting for them, but they needed to be ready for it. Your blessings may be just around the corner, but God will only release them when you're prepared to steward them well. God doesn't just give you blessings, He prepares you for them. Sometimes He's strengthening your character, teaching you patience, or refining your heart before He opens the door to your next season. The unseen blessings are being built as you walk through the unknown. So don't despair in the waiting. God is at work in ways you can't see. He's shaping your future even when you don't feel it. And when the time is right, He will pour out blessings on you that will far exceed what you could have ever imagined. Keep trusting, keep growing, because your preparation is positioning you for the breakthrough that's on its way. There is something powerful that happens when we choose faith over fear. Fear wants to paralyze you, make you question your future, doubt your purpose, and second-guess every decision you make. Fear will try to convince you that the unknown is too risky, too dangerous, and that you are not equipped for what lies ahead. But faith doesn't just acknowledge the unknown, it steps into it with confidence, knowing that God is already there. Let's be real. Fear is natural. It's human to be afraid of what you cannot see, to be anxious about what you cannot control. But here's the key. Fear is a liar. Fear tells you that you're not enough, that you won't make it, that you're too small for the challenge. But faith reminds you that God is enough, that He has already gone before you, and that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Think about Peter walking on water. He stepped out of the boat in the middle of a storm, a situation that seemed impossible. For a moment, his faith kept him on the water. But the moment he allowed fear to overtake him, he began to sink. Faith keeps you afloat, but fear will drown you. You don't have to know what's next to take the next step. What you need is to step out in faith, trusting that God is right there with you, even in the unknown. Fear will always try to tell you that you're not ready, that you're not capable, but faith will tell you that with God, you are more than enough for what's next. The fear of the unknown can keep you stuck, but faith in the one who holds your future will propel you forward even when you can't see the full picture. So today, choose faith over fear. Step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that God is already ahead of you, preparing the way. Don't let fear control your steps. Let faith guide you to the breakthrough that's waiting for you. There are moments in life when you may feel uncertain about where you're headed. You might look at your circumstances and wonder if you're on the right path or if you've missed your opportunity. It's easy to feel lost when the road ahead is unclear, but let me remind you today, your purpose is secure in God's hands. You are not here by accident. God didn't create you for random circumstances or pointless wanderings. From the very beginning, He knew you. Your purpose, your destiny, the unique gifts and talents He placed inside you, even when you can't see it. Your purpose is unfolding according to God's perfect plan. Think about Esther. She was just an ordinary girl in an extraordinary situation, facing challenges and fears that seemed impossible to overcome. Yet, in the midst of it all, God had a purpose for her, to save her people. Esther didn't know her purpose at first, but when the time came, it was revealed, and she rose to the occasion. Her purpose was secure, even when she didn't fully understand it. Your purpose is secure too. It's not dependent on your circumstances, your mistakes, or your doubts. It is founded in the fact that God has already prepared good works for you to do. Ephesians 2:10. You may not know all the steps ahead, but trust this. The steps you take today are leading you toward fulfilling the purpose God has for you. Don't let confusion or setbacks make you think your purpose has been lost or delayed. God's plan for you is unshakable. He is working behind the scenes, orchestrating events and aligning opportunities to bring you to the place where your purpose will be fully realized. Trust that in every season of uncertainty. So stand firm today, knowing that the work you're doing, even in the waiting, is all a part of the greater purpose God has for you. You are exactly where you need to be, and nothing can take away the purpose God has already ordained for your life. Change. It's one of the most intimidating words in the human vocabulary. The idea of stepping into something new, something unknown, can stir up fear and uncertainty. We are creatures of habit, and when things are comfortable, we tend to resist change. But I need you to hear this today. Change is not your enemy. It is the catalyst for your growth. God doesn't allow change in our lives just for the sake of shaking things up. He uses change to prepare us for greater things. When God shifts your situation, it's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something new, something better is on the horizon. You might not see it yet, but God knows exactly what He's doing. The change you're afraid of is often the very thing you need to take you to your next level. Look at Abraham again. When God called him to leave everything behind and go to an unknown land, Abraham didn't know the specifics of where he was going or what was waiting for him, but he trusted that God was leading him to something greater. Change was the door to the promise. When you're faced with change, the temptation is to cling to what you know, to hold on to what feels safe. But God often calls us to step into the unknown, because that's where faith grows. That's where His power is revealed. And that's where the new opportunities and blessings will come. Don't be afraid to let go of the old season, because the new season will bring new strength, new wisdom, and new blessings. Change isn't easy. It can be uncomfortable, even painful. But if you trust that God is leading you, you can rest in the truth that He never brings you to a place without a purpose. Embrace the change, step out in faith, and know that God is using this moment to position you for something greater than you can imagine. Don't be afraid of what's next. God is already there waiting for you. So many of us are trapped in the lie that our present circumstances define our future. We